Let me tell you about a woman so dangerous, so deadly, that even death itself might have failed to claim her. They called her Hell's Belle, but her story is much more terrifying than any nickname could ever suggest. Belle Gunness was born Brynhild Paulsdottir Storset on November 11, 1859, in the sleepy village of Selbu, Norway. You'd think someone with such a quaint upbringing would grow up to live a peaceful life, right? Well, not quite. In 1881, she left Norway behind and set her sights on Chicago. Now, when someone moves halfway across the world, it's usually for opportunity, a fresh start. For Belle, it was more like an opportunity to end others' lives. First victim? Her very own husband, Mads Ditlev Anton Sorensen, a name that should sound innocent enough. The couple opened a candy store. Sweet, right? Well, not really, because before you could say sugar rush, it burned to the ground. Mysteriously, of course. But don't worry, Belle collected the insurance. Gotta stay positive after all. But the tragedy didn't end there. 2 of their 4 children mysteriously died of acute colitis. Or as some might say, symptoms suspiciously similar to poisoning. Belle? Well, she shed a tear or two, but quickly cashed in again on those sweet, sweet life insurance policies. Poor Belle. Such bad luck, right? And as if things couldn't get any worse, in 1900, her husband Sorensen suddenly died of a cerebral hemorrhage on the very day his life insurance policy switched over. Imagine that timing. By then, Chicago was getting a little too hot for comfort, so Belle packed her bags, gathered her surviving children, and moved to a cozy 48-acre farm in LaPorte, Indiana. A new chapter, a fresh start, and maybe a few more victims. It wasn't long before Belle remarried, this time her husband Peter Gunness. Now you'd think Peter would have been suspicious, right? I mean, with all the death and fire following her around like a dark cloud. But alas, Peter was a goner too. After only a few months, Peter's tragic accident occurred. A sausage grinder to the head. Talk about a bad day in the kitchen. And then Peter's daughter also died mysteriously. But we won't dwell on that. Belle did what she does best, cashed in on another life insurance policy and moved right along. Now, you're probably wondering, how does a woman get away with all these unfortunate accidents? Well, Belle had a secret weapon, her charm. Her neighbors described her as strong, intimidating even, capable of lifting 300-pound pianos all on her own. You know, for fun. But things started getting really suspicious when Belle began putting out personal ads in Norwegian-language newspapers. She wasn't looking for love. Oh no. She was looking for victims. Lonely Norwegian bachelors, dreaming of a home-cooked meal and a cozy life on her farm, came running. They brought money and Belle brought, well, her murderous instincts. One lucky man, George Anderson, might have been the only one to survive her advances. He woke up one night to find Belle standing over his bed, staring at him with what could only be described as a hunger. George did what any sane man would do. He ran. Fast. Unfortunately, the other men weren't so lucky. They disappeared without a trace. Meanwhile, Belle spent her nights at her hog pen burying what bodies? She wasn't just raising pigs, she was feeding her murderous appetite. Then came Andrew Helgelian, her final victim. At least the last one we know about. Andrew fell for Belle's letters, full of affection, sweet promises, and, well, lies. He moved to the farm in January 1908, and like the others, disappeared soon after. But this time, Belle made a mistake. Andrew's brother, Assel, wasn't about to let his brother vanish without answers. He pressed Belle for information, and though she tried to deflect, the truth was creeping closer. And let me tell you, Belle doesn't like the truth. On April 27, 1908, after telling her lawyer that she feared her former farmhand, Ray Lamphere, would kill her, Belle made a will and then bought some kerosene. Convenient, right? That night, her farmhouse went up in flames. Inside, authorities found the bodies of her 3 children and a headless woman. Was that headless body Belle Gunness? Or did she finally fake her own death to escape the authorities? As authorities dug deeper, quite literally they found the remains of 11 bodies buried in Belle's hog pen. Men who had come to her farm for love, but left in pieces. Her foster daughter, Jenny Olsen, was found among the dead. The same Jenny who once said, "My mama killed my papa." How right she was. Ray Lamphere, Belle's former farmhand, was convicted of arson, but swore until his dying breath that Belle had been the mastermind behind the murders. He even admitted they had killed 42 men together. He did the planting, as he called it, planting bodies. But here's the kicker. No one's sure if Belle Gunness really died in that fire. Rumors swirled for years that she escaped. And in 1931, a woman named Esther Carlson, arrested in Los Angeles for poisoning a man, bore a striking resemblance to Belle. Could it have been her? We may never know for sure if Belle Gunness really met her end, or if the mistress of the Castle of Death is still out there, watching, waiting, and perhaps ready to strike again.